Hey everyone, and welcome to another recording of Our Human Experience, the podcast where we probe individuals to share the stories that made them who they are today.
And try to find the connection that is our human experience. And we are recording today in beautiful Govinda at the Arts Nexus podcast studio. I'm Claire Tierney.
And I'm Anna Winter.
So where can they follow us, Anna?
They can follow us on social media at Our Human Experience on Instagram and Facebook.
ourhumanexperience.com.au. We invite you
to pod binge
Our Human Experience
anytime you like. Hey Claire.
Hi Anna.
How you going?
Yeah, pretty good.
What a week.
What a huge week. I've had a huge week in the theatre.
I have to share a discovery from this week.
Okay, cool. Go first.
So, I'm dyslexic, as you know, and I've recognised, especially with all these incredible guests coming on our program, so many people have written books, and I'm like, it's sort of, for me, I feel like a faker if I don't know what they've written.
Yeah,
it's
you've
so
only
important.
read the front page of the book.
Yeah, and time is of the essence as well, and my physical health is important. So I rang a friend who listens to a lot of audiobooks, and I've been Googling, and I found that you can upload this app called BorrowBox, which is through your local library.
Oh, yeah, I've heard of it.
Yeah, and so then you can go on there and you upload an app. They can help you at any library. Because of COVID, it's become common across all our libraries. And yeah, you just go on there, go on the app, put your library card details in there, and then you can search for the audiobooks. So we have a very special guest coming up in a couple of weeks. And
so you're going to have read the book?
I want to have read the book, yeah. So I demolished a book. Well, not a full book, half a book. So I say my ears read the book while I walked for 3 hours.
Because that's what everybody does.
I know. So for me, it's actually life-changing.
Yeah, fantastic.
I've only actually read 2 books in my life.
Get out.
Yeah, seriously. And I've searched for information, but for me, my concentration span is fairly small. But more so than anything, it just takes me a long time.
Yeah.
So, but this is free. So, it's at the library, and I can, read books through my ears, like I say now.
So we had an arts week because I went to 2 different productions.
Really?
Actually, yeah, I went to see La Bella Figura at the Boulanger, the old Duke Theatre.
In Cairns?
In Cairns, written by Cairns people, directed, performed, absolutely fabulous story about the Italian culture, which we'll take another show. Maybe we'll get some of them in to talk to us about. I also went to see a performance by Tropical Arts, and they do Shakespeare at the Tanks every year, and they did what's it again? Hamlet and the climate change. No, the climate. Help me out, Melissa.
Emergency.
The climate emergency. Sorry, I'm talking to my
totally is a climate emergency.
Yeah. So and that was absolutely amazing. That's a fantastic local theatre group.
Sounds really topical too, because at the moment with so much globally going on with climate and climate change and conversation.
Yeah, it was just brilliant. So they were both really great, completely different to each other in very different ways.
There seems to be a lot of community arts things going on in Cairns. It's so impressive.
Know what? If you dig, there's always arts around to go and see. Yeah. I am such a digger around the arts.
So this brings us on to our next guest that you have your personal connection with.
I bumped into ALTEOUISE at one of these performances at La Bella Figura, and after the show, we'd both been involved in some of the early script reading, so we were super excited to see it. Bumped into her, looks amazing. She always does. Had a chat and invited her on the show. So let's
take it away
today. Yeah, let's bring her in.
Good morning.
So ALTEOUISE, we've kept you out on the sideline. We've had a bit of a chat off camera, but we'd like to start back at the very early years. We like to talk to our guests about the ages from 0 to 15. Those formative years. What was your community like? Your family, your place in the family, at schooling, etc. That sort of stuff.
I'm from Altadena, California, which is pretty much the same climate as Port Douglas. It's very tropical. I'm 30 miles from the mountains and 30 miles from the sea. So we have kind of both. In the winter, we can go up to the snow, and in summer, you can go to the ocean and swim in the ocean. So very tropical. The difference is Port Douglas is a little bit flatter. It's not as hilly as where I grew up. But I'm number 4 out of 7 children.
Wow.
7 kids, and I'm really in the middle because I have 2 older brothers, 2 younger brothers, 1 older sister, and 1 younger sister. So that middle child syndrome is very prominent with me. My mother was a music teacher, and my father was a Baptist pastor of a church. So my story is very similar to a lot of American singers, a lot of Americans who end up being performers come from backgrounds of being in church or having fathers that are ministers, because when you have a father that's a minister, you are in church all the time. And my mother was the minister of music in our church. So lots of music. My mother was my first teacher, my first music teacher. And I think I was in the 4th grade when we could get instruments in school. And I started with viola.
Wow.
But I started with viola. And well, actually I started with violin, and then I switched to viola because viola was, I always sang, and I was always an alto. So viola is the alto of the string or instruments. So naturally that was an instrument that I gravitated to. Of course, my mother gave piano lessons on Saturdays, so our house was full of music all the time. And I sang in the children's choir. And I remember one time my mom, I don't know what, I got really just like excited. I found my voice and I started singing. I was a little kid and I sang and I was drowning all the other kids out. I was singing so loud. It was like that scene in What's Love Got to Do with It, where Tina Turner is singing so loud and the choir director drags her out by her ear. In the car home, my mom says, "Why were you singing so loud?" I was like, I don't know. It felt good. So I think that's where I really found my voice, my singing voice when I was a kid, singing in the kids' choir at church. And then that went on to, I would say, high school. In high school, I kind of dropped out of the orchestra and started singing in the choir. And I had a wonderful choir director named Carolyn Shannon, who really introduced me to a lot of chamber, madrigals, choral music. And it wasn't a high school performing arts, but it was of that level. We didn't have high school I don't know if you know what high school performing arts is, a specialized school for music. They have that
absolutely.
They have, my son went to LaGuardia, which is the school where Fame was based off of in New York.
Yeah.
But my school was not technically a high school performing arts, but we had a very, very high quality of music. And where I'm from, in this small town in California, truly the Valley. So I'm the real Valley girl.
You're a Valley girl.
I am.
Well, I was going to chime in at one stage, but it's really interesting that your first musical instrument was a viola, because in Australia, most kids' first introduction to a musical instrument is the wood recorder. You know, very, very low key, that we kind of toot our little recorders when we're going around primary school. And I think the viola is a step up, definitely, from that.
Well, actually, I started on the violin because my older sister played the violin. And you know how that is? Kids play, I'm going to play this instrument. And then after a couple of years, it's in the cupboard. So I got my sister's violin and I started with violin. But then my orchestra teacher in middle school needed a viola player. And I put my hand up because I thought, oh, this is a piece of cake for me. It's like singing the alto part. So that's how I switched to viola.
Cool.
My middle school band teacher, Mr. Bellis, was also the person who got me to sing. I was singing in the band room, and he was very strict, and I was a very shy young girl. And he comes out and he says, "Someone was singing. Who was that singing?" And I got really scared, and everybody said, ALTEOUISE, that was her. And he said, come in my office. And I was frightened. I thought, oh my gosh. And he said, graduation is in 3 weeks or whatever, and you're singing the Star Spangled Banner, which is our national anthem.
Mm-hmm.
Go home and tell your mom to figure out what key you sing it in and come back and tell me. So I went home and told my mom, and she went on the piano and she got me what key I sing it in. And I went back and told him. And I sang the national anthem for 8th grade graduation ceremony in California when I was in middle school. That was my first time singing in public. And I tell you, my knees were knocking. I was so scared.
Wow, because like a lot of kids, their first time in front of the school is a little 3-minute or 3-second chat, is announcing something that the school's doing, just to get their confidence up. But that's quite a baptism of fire, isn't it?
It is. It is. But then again, I was singing every Sunday in church. So that is just, it still is a wonderful opportunity to sing, to make music. And I'm quite saddened by living in Australia where people don't go to church, because in America, you go to church and you might not, this is terrible to say, you might not hear the sermon, but you know the music. Well, you get the music. I learn everything through music. Everything I learn through music. It's constant in my head. It's always going. I have earphones in constantly. I learn all of my music. I do everything, with the earphones on. I have music constantly going. And, when my daughter was going through school and she had to learn her states and capitals, well, we recorded it to a beat, and so that she could learn it, really, so that I could finally learn it.
I'd have to say, actually, I say that to my son quite often. If I had been able to sing my schooling, I think it would have stuck in my head a lot easier, because I can remember every song pretty much that I've ever heard, and I sing it along, and he's often saying to me, how do you know all the words? How do you know this? And I'm like, I don't know, it sticks. Whereas reading a book can go in one ear and out the next.
Exactly. Mm-hmm.
So I wanted to ask, obviously we've heard the direction of your choice to be a singer came through your family and your creative pastimes and your church. Just as a curiosity, has there ever been another path that you at one stage thought you would like to take?
I always was good with hair. I always loved hair. And every time when I got to high school, I was in the chamber group, the chamber choir. I was in concert choir. And we did traveling. We went to Europe and we performed. And I remember I was always just good with hair. We'd be in the bath and we had to wear, in those days, you had to have updos. People don't do that anymore, but you had to have your hair up. So, and God forbid, if my parents could see my hair like this, they would just die, because you just didn't go out with your hair natural. Oh my God, you had to have it straightened and you had to have rollers, and oh my gosh, it's just a big ordeal. So I used to do my mom's hair. And then when we went on tour with the choir director had me do her hair. And I thought, oh my gosh, I was always in the bathroom helping the girls put their hair up. And so I was just really good with hair. And I thought maybe that would be a good thing for me to be a hairstylist. And my mom just said, nope, you're being a singer, you're going to conservatory, and that's it.
Oh, bless you, Mom.
Yeah. So then I had what I call a landslide, where my career went right down, and I needed something to do. So I went back to school and got my license as a cosmetologist and worked in a hair salon and did hair for 10 years.
Wow.
Because I didn't sing for 10 years. I couldn't sing for 10 years.
How come?
I had acid reflux.
Oh.
I didn't know what acid reflux was. I didn't know that I had acid reflux. I just got to a point where life got so terribly difficult that I could not sing. I could not phonate, and something was happening in my body.
What is acid reflux? I don't know what it is.
Acid reflux is when the gases from your stomach come back up and burn your throat. If you've ever had spicy food or what, and you burp and the acids come back and you have that. Well, mine was the silent kind that happens basically when you're sleeping. I would always sleep with a glass of water by my bed because I would wake up in the night feeling like I'm being choked. And what it was is the acids from my stomach were coming back up and burning my throat. So the larynx and the esophagus of my throat were completely burned, and I couldn't phonate. I couldn't, my voice was like this. It was, I couldn't call my kids. I have 2 children. I couldn't call them in the next room. My voice is completely damaged. And I had to keep going. I just had to keep going. I'm on my second marriage. My first marriage, he was never around. He was also a singer. And it was very difficult. It was an abusive relationship, not physically, but mentally. Mm-hmm. And me growing up being a shy, kind of follow your parents, polite, do what your parents say, really nice little girl. It was really easy for someone to manipulate me and to use my kindness and turn it around and make it a weakness.
Yeah.
And
so it took
for
your
many
voice
years,
away. Sorry, I was just going to say it took your voice away in many ways.
It took my voice away. I became morbidly obese, and that was another thing. When you're a singer, you tend to eat after the show anyway. So that's eating at midnight. And then you go to sleep. And so then the acids from your stomach that you don't digest are coming back up and burning your throat, which is a cycle. It was just a cycle that I couldn't, and I didn't know what it was at first. I just knew I couldn't sing. And so then with that comes depression, being suicidal, because if all you do is sing and then that's been taken away from you, it really plays havoc on your brain, so on your psychic, on your...
Yeah, by the sounds of things, and I can relate to that myself because I had a weight problem for many, many years, but I had a really unhealthy relationship with food. Like, I love food and food is a pleasure, but it also played a part in my life where food harmed me. And I had my emotions came through my food, and it made me feel good when I had a similar situation to yourself, where as I look back, I can go, it gave me a sensation that made me feel better, I thought at the time, but really it was just, getting me unhealthy and depressed. So I can really relate to that.
Exactly. And, for me, I can't say that I had a weight problem. I have a weight problem.
Agree.
I'm just, my younger sister tells me that I'm just crazy, that I'm just obsessed with this. But, I have to watch everything I eat. I have to exercise. I have to do, and now on top of it, I was born in the 50s. I came through in the 50s, and now here I am, almost 65 years old. And I went through a period where I was in a wheelchair. I went through a period where I couldn't walk. And it was just being overweight, really. But it's not so simple as just being overweight. No, being overweight is a reaction to everything that's happening in your life. When you think you're secretly eating and you're just eating this and you're just compulsively eating all the time, it shows.
Yeah.
And you can't hide it anymore. It's just, and it affects your health. And for me, it affected my health in such a way, and it still does, that I couldn't function. And now I've got a real handle on it. I feel really good. Since I've been in Australia, I've made it, you hear all the time, you have to make it a lifestyle. It's a lifestyle, and that's so easily said. But the steps that it takes to really make it a lifestyle is really difficult. And I was told years ago, the most difficult thing that a person can do is to lose weight and keep it off. And I've lost, over 50 kilos and kept it off for 10 years. So I go up and down. I mean, I'm still 6 kilos more than I should be, but basically I lost the weight and I've been struggling to keep it off for for 20 years.
Yeah.
When I was 50, I reached that milestone where I lost 100 pounds and I was feeling good. And then it would go up a little bit, then it would go down. But I wasn't finished when I lost 100 because I needed to do more. Then I came to Australia, and it's so wonderful and beautiful here. So, yeah.
It's a insatiable hunger, isn't it? It's working out. I completely understand, because for me, and I'm sure you can relate, there's no off button. And, the thing that when I started to understand my relationship with food a little bit more, I recognized that, we're so blessed in this country, especially up in North Queensland, with all this beautiful food. But it was just, I use food to heal me and look after myself and nourish myself, where before I didn't. So I just think I always talk to my food and I make choices with my food and I try and slow down with my food. And I'm sure you've been in situations with children and you've been ambitious, I'm sure, with, what you wanted to do and who you wanted to sing to and perform to.
Yes.
So that in turn means you would have been so extremely busy physically and mentally. But to do all that, you've got to have that element right and balanced in a sense with your food, because you need to fuel yourself to get to that place, because if you're fueling it with a Mars bar, as Australians would say, or, just that big refined sugar hit, it might get you to that performance, or for myself to, work or whatever, but it's not sustaining, is it? And then you come down off it and then you want more of it because it's addictive, the sugar.
It is that cycle. It's that cycle. Yeah. That's the hardest thing to break, and to make it fit it into your lifestyle. Not only are we blessed in far north Queensland to have beautiful food and beautiful fish, and I love food. I love it. But to learn, like you say, to slow down and to you're in a place where you can exercise really easily.
Yeah.
And I have a wonderful husband now, a beautiful man, and he always says you have to be fit enough to do what you want to do.
Yeah.
And so if I want to still perform, because I'm back performing now, then I have to be healthy enough to do that.
Yeah.
I have to be healthy enough and be able to stand up straight and walk out on stage and sing and do my choreography and my blocking so that I can move around and get down and sit up and come up,
Yeah.
It's to sit down on a bench in front of an audience and then get up slowly, it's hard.
And gracefully.
And I would go on holiday to beautiful places and I would think, wow, if I lived here, I would go walking every day. This is a beautiful view. If I lived here, I would do this routine. Well, guess what? Now I do.
Yeah, girl.
I live here.
Yeah,
and
girl.
There's footpaths through Port Douglas that are so beautiful.
Yeah.
The beach is so beautiful. So you just have to make it part of your everyday routine and stop and smell the roses.
Yeah.
I mean, really, all of these things are so important.
Yeah.
And then incorporate. If you just get yourself moving, walking through the grocery store is walking. Walking is walking. So you just put on your little walker thing and you walk through and you get your vegetables and you get and you get your stuff. And then you come back home and you squat because when you live in these little resorts in Port Douglas, not everybody has these big, beautiful houses, so mine's really convenient because I can just go from here to here and I'm exercising. Anyway. I'm prepping my food all the time. Always. I'm still obsessed with food, but now I don't have to eat it all the time. I can prep it and I'm still dealing with it. I'm making all the beautiful rainbow colors with all the capsicum and the beautiful, different fish, red and white. I've discovered barramundi because I didn't have that in the United States. And oh my God, I bought an air fryer.
Oh,
Life changing.
Yeah, absolutely.
Stop it. It's a new day when you get an air fryer.
It's life changing. You can make carrot chips.
Do you sing to it? Yeah. Do you sing to your air fryer? Like, give us a tune in the kitchen. Come on, you must sing in the kitchen.
Oh, you know what I do?
All right, give me a little bit of it.
My husband plays guitar, and if he wants a really good meal, he'll play guitar because I'll sing while I'm cooking, you know? And he knows contemporary music is not something that I know a lot about. I've had an operatic career where I've had to learn 5-hour operas in foreign languages.
Yeah.
So I've been like a horse with blinders since I was 18 years old, learning roles. My career started when I was 18. I made my Carnegie Hall debut at 19. 19 years old. I moved to New York City. So I've been like a horse with blinders, very focused on my career and not, going to a lot of, of course I went out dancing with my friends, and I lived in New York in the 70s. So I went to, all the discos, and I did all that, and I could hear a song and pick it up and be fine with it. But I don't know the lyrics. I'm not like you, Claire. I don't know all the lyrics, but my husband knows all the lyrics. And so he sings and I just harmonize and I just do oohs and ahs behind him when I'm cooking, because it's very it's refreshing and it's good and it's fun.
It's creative.
Yeah.
It's being creative soulfully in the kitchen to make up an amazing dish.
So we have a good time making music, and I always wanted to be the backup girl. I didn't want to be Diana Ross. I wanted to be one of the Supremes, the backup chicks, I the ooh and the ah because my voice is low and it was never suited for that type of singing. And I grew up with a mother who was classically trained. So I took the classical route because I always say I didn't choose a career. It chose me. It chose me. So I just followed my path and it all came to me. You just keep going. No matter what happens in life, you just keep going.
If you could tell yourself, with all the lessons that you've learned with your career, with your music, with your soulful food that you're now creating in Port, what advice would you give to yourself? You know how sometimes you look at things and you go, as we grow as individuals, and we go, oh, you've nailed by what you've told us today. There's certain things in your life, that especially with your food and looking after you so you can perform and you can do your best. What would you tell you at 18, maybe not necessarily with decisions on life pathways, but more so about looking after your whole body? And what advice would you give to the 18-year-old girl that you now know?
To 18-year-old ALTEOUISE?
Yeah.
I don't think I could go back and give that advice to the 18-year-old ALTEOUISE, because the 18-year-old ALTEOUISE knew everything.
What if she was willing to listen?
And that's
so
kind
true.
of the way it is.
It's like, so true.
If you don't, you can't save people. You can only be an example.
Yeah.
And I've learned that. I've really learned that instead of me trying to bring everyone along with me on my journey, when we talk about my weight loss journey, if you're an opera singer, you've got friends who've got weight problems, because opera singer, it's not I don't know. You've heard the saying, it's not over till the fat lady sings.
Yeah.
Well, the fat lady opera singer is out.
Yeah.
If you're a fat opera singer, you don't get a job. It's over. It's not that way anymore. And I have a lot of friends who have weight problems and issues because we like to eat and then we don't exercise. And, doing an opera is a lot of work. You're really up there working, but it's not enough to burn off a Whopper.
Yeah. I mean, with you saying that, I think the one thing, we talk about weight and we talk about, time passing and understanding us all individually. And the one thing that someone said to me that I wish I'd actually known as a human was that when you gain weight, you accumulate fat cells and they never leave you. They never go. So the bigger you get, the more fat cells. So similar to your story, I lost, 68 kilos. And having that like science and understanding that those fat cells are still there, they just shrink. So someone that has been a heavier person can put on weight scientifically a lot easier because those fat cells don't have to be created, they exist.
That's right.
Yeah, and it's just, fascinating what I didn't know that. I didn't know that until a couple of years ago. A guy that was training me who was a doctor, and he was teaching me about weight training and muscle and lean muscle mass and how that's important. You don't have to run 1,000 Ks. Just, there's different forms of exercise. And it was just like he was explaining to me about that. And it's kind of like it's an education for life on our health, isn't it? And there's so many people out there that have so much information. And it's just, I suppose recognizing that, there's so much to learn in the health space and that getting ourselves physically our best can help us create our dreams and live our passion, if that makes sense.
And that's the key. That is the key, is education.
Yeah, 100%.
The key is educate. If you do not educate yourself on what's going in your mouth and what's happening in your body,
correct,
then you stay the same. And that's insane, because insanity is doing the same thing over and over with expecting a different result.
Correct.
And I was very fortunate that I had a mother who was very disciplined in her eating. And she brought us all up with a meat, a vegetable, and a starch. Well-balanced meals. We didn't have sodas, carbonated drinks. We drank lemonade made from our lemons on our tree with sugar, but not a lot of sugar, and iced tea or water. That's what you had. We didn't have carbonated. I didn't grow up drinking Coca-Cola and cordial and things like that. Just real food and a balanced. And I always wanted more. And my mother had this, she'd look at me like, don't you dare. And it was just like so frustrating for me because I wanted to eat. The thing I could on Thanksgiving and on Christmas, I could eat as much as I wanted, and I would eat and I would just feel sick because I would eat so much.
I understand that.
But I thought whenever I got away from home, when I was 18 and I left and I went to college, that's when my real weight problems started coming in, because I didn't have my mother monitoring my eating habits.
Yeah.
But I knew how to balance a meal. I've been doing Weight Watchers since I was in high school. I went with my mother and my aunties. We went on the grapefruit diet. We went on the cabbage diet. We went on every diet there was. We did it all.
Yeah.
And they all work. Every diet in the world works. What doesn't work is if you don't stick to it.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
And that's the whole thing, that you've got to really, you have to just, my ancestors have a saying that I've adopted, that's keep on keeping on. In other words, put one foot in front of the other and keep going. You have to keep doing it. Keep doing it. Every day you have to get up. Every morning I have to get up and get on my bicycle. That's just it. Just get up and get on my bicycle. Yeah. Don't think, just do that. And then I call it my physio. Then I go for a walk on the beach, and then I do Tai Chi for an hour. And that's my physio, because when I did do physio, the exercises that the physician gave me are all incorporated into Tai Chi. So I thought, when I found it, I didn't find it, it found me, because of COVID, a lot of things found us.
Yeah.
And I embraced it. I recognized it, I embraced it, and it becomes a routine, that it's become something that I do all the time until it becomes a habit. You have to do something 21 times consecutively before it becomes a habit.
It's a ritual, isn't it? You've got your
Yes.
ritual of life laid out in the morning.
And I'm the happiest I've ever been. My first husband used to say, you always talk about I just want to be happy. What is happy? Well, guess what?
Guess what?
I'm there.
Yeah.
I have found the secret.
Yeah. Great.
Yeah, I am. And it helps to have really positive, good people in your life, but you create that as well, because you become a mirror and you attract who you are.
ALTEOUISE, I just need to pick up here and say you have brought up so many salient points just in the last 20 minutes about life and the journey and what we learn. And you started the conversation with the fact that you'd lost your voice because you had a relationship that wasn't supporting you. So we know how things can manifest in your body from your mind. So having your voice stripped from you in your relationship ended up having your voice stripped from you within your body, and then you needed to come out of that. So I want to congratulate you because I have watched you on your journey. I've seen you riding around Port Douglas singing. I know you are extremely committed, and I know your beautiful husband. He's an amazing, supportive man. I want to just ask you, what was it that allowed you to make that turn and come out of those 10 years of silence? Do you put it down to a mentor or an experience? Can you?
I had a real moment. I don't know if I was having a nervous breakdown or what, but I was in my bedroom one morning and I was just distraught. I was angry at God, and my parents passed. I didn't have my parents. I had a husband that was missing in action. Didn't know what was going on with him, where he was. I had 2 children to care for, and I didn't have a voice. On top of everything, I couldn't sing. The one thing that I always had, and that was the one thing, if you read my high school book where everybody says, oh, you're going to be a singer, you're a fabulous singer, can't wait to see you on stage, can't wait to see where your career goes. This is what all the ambitions that not just I had for myself, but that everyone had. And it seemed like this particular morning when everything just came crashing down, in my confused state of mind, it was like God spoke to me with a real voice and called me by my name, ALTEOUISE. And it was like, have you ever been asleep and you hear someone call your name and you kind of like, you're in that halfway, but I was awake. And he said, sing. So I had some praise songs that I would put on my tape recorder. Shows you how long ago that was. And just sing with it to try to get my voice going. And the song was, as a deer panteth for the water, so my soul longeth after thee. You alone are my heart's desire, and I long to worship thee. And it sounded terrible. It was horrible. Couldn't sing. And then again, ALTEOUISE, sing the words. And what I did on this particular day, I focused on the text of the song. As the deer panteth for the water, so my soul longeth after thee. You alone are my heart's desire, and I long to worship thee. I didn't really understand until 5 years later what happened. But to bring it back to you, I got lost in that song. It was like I went away. And then it was like I was high. I was in another place. I wasn't present. And then I started like coming down. I started coming back and being aware of my surroundings again, like coming back down. And when I did, I was singing. Wow. My voice no problems at all. And I fell down on my knees and I gave thanks to God I claimed it as a healing.
Mm-hmm.
Now, I did not grow up in one of those Bible hallelujah kind of like churches. My parents are very conservative, and I had heard about these things and I have seen these, and when I went with my friends to their churches and things like that, but I never really ever experienced that. And it's something that I have to talk about because I just have to, because I'm not ashamed of my beliefs. I'm not a religious person, but I'm very spiritual. Organized religion is something that, I grew up in it, so I know the ins and outs. And okay, that's a different subject.
That is.
But I believe that music has healing power. It has healing elements to it. And so music has helped me to come. I claimed it. And that was one day that I could sing. And I couldn't sing for like 2 years after that. But that one day, but I kept saying, I've been healed. I've been healed. And then my scripture became, in all thy ways, acknowledge him, and he will direct your path. So acknowledging the fact that God is the one who healed me, I believe that negotiated my path to the right doctors, to the right things, for the mindset to keep on singing. I sang the vowel E for a year. E for a whole year until I can move on to another vowel. For 5 years, I worked constantly on my voice to get my voice back, phonating. But then 5 years after that, I was with my brother-in-law in New York, and we were having a conversation. And right in the middle of the conversation, I knew why I only had one day, that I could only sing that one day, and I couldn't sing anymore after that. Because I needed that one day so that I could give God the credit.
Okay.
So I could give God the glory and not me, because it's not me. There's something that's higher, whether you believe in God or whatever, you have to believe in something or else you'll fall for anything.
Yeah.
So for me, yes, I believe in God. And yes, I believe that God is the one who healed me where my voice is. But not only that, I have the courage and the energy and everything has come to me to be able to still do my path. And after that, I met Idris.
Yeah, it all came to
after
you.
that. And then even after when I met Idris, and he said, I want you to come to Australia and see where I'm from. And I came to Australia and fell in love with Australia. Idris asked me to marry him. I went back to the States just to finalize everything. And I was on tour and I wasn't doing so well. I wasn't feeling well. And I came back to the States and I was just dragging. And I went to the doctor. And anyway, to make a long story short, it turned out that I had cancer. And I was preparing to go and I got the phone call from the doctor that says, I'm sorry, you can't leave to go to Australia. We have to see something that concerns us and we need you to come back in. And I thought, in that split second, I thought, oh my gosh, I've got cancer, I'm going to die, and I'm never going to get to go to Australia and marry Idris. That's what I thought. I'm never going to get to marry the man of my dreams because now I'm going to die. Well, that all turned out well. I didn't have to have chemo. I didn't have to have radiation because it was in the uterus. I had a hysterectomy through the keyhole and voila. And I'm thinking, isn't that great? I don't have to go through all that menstrual cycle stuff anymore. And it was great. I should have done that a long time ago. And it's been good. It's been almost 15 years and no cancer at all. And I ride for the month of October. I'm riding for kids with cancer to raise money. And if I could get someone to ride with me, I'm getting people financial donations are coming in right and left, more so than anybody. I can't get anybody to ride with me, but I'm getting people to put up the money. They're happy to give money but I need someone to ride with me because I'm having to do like 30 more kilometers before I'm finished. And tomorrow's the last day of October.
Oh, so is that why you did 24 kilometers this morning?
Oh, that's awesome. Oh, you should be.
You're
I finally had known. I would have come for a ride. I'm always into it. I get up.
It's every year, so I'll be looking for you next year.
She'll be
Lock
there.
it in.
I see people in Cairns with the T-shirt on.
Yeah.
With the you know, the cycling. Oh, and I just love it. It's just wonderful. I know how I felt. I know how my family felt when they thought, oh, my mom's got cancer, how frightening it is for adults. But for kids, it's just it's so difficult. It's like for a little kid to look at them and for their mommy to have to say, baby, you've got cancer. This thing, you know, it's just, so if we can raise money, raise awareness for that, that's just one of the things where my heart is, because when I first signed up to do it, I was just looking at those sweet little faces. I had forgotten that I actually had cancer myself.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, I've had so many things that could hold one back, but I refuse to let it hold me back.
You dusted yourself off.
I refuse to give into it.
You dusted yourself off and you got up again and you kept on going.
And just keep on going. Keep on keeping on.
Keeping on.
Yeah, that's it.
It's been so lovely to meet you today.
It's been an absolute, to meet you too.
Yeah, it's a pleasure. And I look forward to having a ride around Port Douglas. Claire, like she said, and singing at the same time. I totally won't be in tune though, but I'm okay with that.
It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. You know, by the time someone hears you, you've gone past them. They don't know if you're in tune or not. And it feels good. It's all about feeling good because actually when you breathe and you sing, the endorphins go to your brain and make you feel good. And it's all about that feel-good hit that you need. Definitely. That's what we get addicted to.
We're going to have to bring a whole lot of people to you and maybe go for a ride and maybe that could just be our thing, you know, like things happen for a reason and, you know, ideas happen with these conversations and my mind is immediately thinking I need to ride with you somewhere and sing and let it all out.
And let it out.
Yeah.
It feels so good.
The singing,
you know,
cyclists.
And sometimes when I've had living in Port Douglas, and being away from my family and going through, you know, I went to the States last year and came back with COVID. I went to see my son do his debut at the Metropolitan Opera, which was canceled 3 days after we arrived. And we came back through Sydney and my husband and I were tested positive for COVID. And this is in the beginning of what's happening. And I actually thought I was going to die. I didn't know. Right. So, all I could think was, I just want to get on my bicycle and just ride and just feel that freedom. And it's so wonderful to be able to do that now. It's so wonderful to be able to do that now. It just, you know, it's so important just to let it out.
Yeah.
So we will do that. We're all survivors. We've all come through. And there's just so much, but there's healing with music. I love music. It's the one thing that motivates me to keep going. I'm working on Priscilla, Queen of the Desert now at the Clink.
I'm so excited. I can't wait.
And I made a playlist of all the songs. And in the morning when I ride, oh my God, Venus is dun 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 dun. Oh my God. I don't care what people think. It's so wonderful to be of age and, you know, have a freedom that you don't care. You just get out there and sing. Yeah. So I think it will be great for you to come up to Port Douglas and we'll just have a boom box in our baskets and our bicycles.
I'm doing it.
And we just dun, 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 go with the beat and sing. And it's like nobody's watching.
Air fryer. Air fryer. Air fryer. Air fryer. Air fryer. Ride it, girl. Air fryer. Air fryer. I'll be doing it.
ALTEOUISE,
I look forward.
ALTEOUISE, I wanted to just tap into that moment where I rang you and asked you if you could open a show for me many years ago and asked you if you could sing a song called Kitchen Man.
Yeah.
And at the time, you said, "Oh, I'm going to have to listen to it." Rang me back within minutes and said, "I'll do it." But you did say to me that was the first time you'd performed non-opera.
Yeah.
And it was just, I hadn't really thought about how the song itself, Kitchen Man, was so connected to your path of, the food and the healing and the singing that you do with Idris. And I have seen you guys perform that on YouTube all around the place now.
Yeah.
You love it.
Because of you, Claire, I'm telling you, I would have never, ever learned that song. And now it's one of the things if I go any place with Idris and the band is playing or whatever, people are like, "Can you sing Kitchen Man?" We have some friends that every time we go for a full moon party out in Wonga, it's so fabulous. I have to sing Kitchen Man. It's such a wonderful song, and I just love it. And I've been doing different genres of music now since I've been here.
Great.
And it's just great.
Yeah.
Thanks, Claire.
My pleasure. Thank you for doing it. I was on that journey with you, and I'm really appreciative. I'm so grateful, but also I'm just grateful that I have been able to be part of watching your journey of your healing as well, and you're spreading your wings into the community of Port Douglas, which has benefited hugely from your tutelage and the theatre and the kids that are coming up through these musicals that you run. It's
aren't they beautiful?
They're beautiful, and it's a blessing to have you. And I can't thank you enough. It's been amazing.
Well, thank you.
Amazing.
Thank you.
No, truly.
Thanks.
So you just tapped on it before, but at this point of the talk, we usually give people a chance to either promote something they're doing or a book or whatever. But you're saying your next production at the Clink Theatre is
Priscilla next year. But actually, there's so many things I'm involved in.
Of course.
And like today, in a couple of hours, I'll be getting ready to go to Piccolo Cucina, which is an Italian restaurant in Cannes, to do Luciano Pavarotti birthday party.
Oh no, I missed it.
So I have the great honor of working with Luciano Pavarotti. A lot of my young students don't know who Luciano Pavarotti is. What a shame. Yeah. But October was his birthday month.
Yeah.
And so we celebrate by having an opera. We sing arias. Just a bunch of us get together and go to Piccolo Cucina and sing, opera. And so we're doing that. And I'm also working with Andy Redhead, who is a classical guitar player. With David Pike is in Cooktown now, and he's a trumpeter. He's new in town, another muso, fantastic. And he also is a composer. And he's written a classical piece for mezzo-soprano and classical guitar. And that's going to be on a podcast from Germany. Well, there's a German company that's sponsoring it, right? Okay. So we're doing that, and that's next week.
Wow.
And then in December, I'm doing, like I started, the Handel's Messiah. So when I was 19, I did my professional debut at Carnegie Hall in Handel's Messiah as the alto soloist. And I will be singing on the CPAC stage on the 5th of December with Stella Massey, 90 years old, conducting. Stella called me when I was in lockdown in Sydney, when I was in quarantine with COVID, and she didn't realize that I actually had COVID. She just thought, I was in quarantine. She didn't understand. She turned 90, and she says, "I want to give thanks to God for coming through this pandemic by conducting Handel's Messiah, and I want you to be my alto soloist." So there you have it.
Wow.
And then I have a choir, and I sing with the Cannes Choral Society, and we have a Stedford's coming up next year. So I will be putting my choir into that. I'm training all of my singers to compete, to go out with their costumes and do their numbers. And I'm also performing with the Cannes Choral Society for the Stedford. So that's a lot of projects that I'm working on right now, and I'm loving all of it.
That is amazing.
Fantastic. Yeah. And add to that, we're all going to go for a ride.
And we're going for a bike ride.
Go for a ride. Come up to Port Douglas. We'll have to organize it.
Yes.
I'm free Saturday mornings.
Or you can
come up and what's that?
Ride.
Or you can come to us when you're practicing at the Cannes Choral Society, because I live right next door.
Oh, do you?
Yeah.
On Greenslope.
So
Are you in Greenslope?
Yeah. There we go.
That's wonderful.
Yeah. Oh, ALTEOUISE, so much. Thank you so much for sparing the time for us today. You're an incredibly busy and incredibly inspirational person, and I feel privileged to know you. And I'm really great that we could give your energy out to our community of listeners and for you to join our human experience and tell us about your journey. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Well, have a beautiful day.
Yeah,
you
too, babe. All right.
Keep singing.
Sure.
Like nobody's listening.
No one's watching or listening or anything. Yeah, great. Thank you so much.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
Nobody else will ever touch my hand. I can't do without my kitchen hand.
I just love that woman.
Oh, I want to sing about food in the kitchen and go writing and singing.
Yeah, we've got to do the writing with her. It's spectacular because how other people react to her. We didn't talk about this on the show, but I had a moment where she came to a birthday lunch for me many years ago, and when it came to the cake, she lined everybody up and said, "No," but told all of my friends, "Nobody sings but me." And when it came to singing Happy Birthday, she broke it out in full opera in the middle of the street. People were stopping, clapping. She's just extraordinary. Yeah, she's an extraordinary woman.
You know what today said to me talking to ALTEOUISE, and I hope I pronounced her name correctly.
You did.
I did? Okay.
Yeah, practice well.
Yeah. Was that things that stood out were that she has so much talent and it's taken so much discipline for her to find her craft.
Yeah.
And she recognized the importance of her physical health to do that.
Yes.
It's
inspiring, isn't it?
Yeah, absolutely. It's like writer's block, losing a voice, feeling stifled by the people around you. And she was saying that with her first husband. He basically stifled her creative soul. And it just stood out today how she'd worked out lots of elements of her life. And it's so true, isn't it?
And I think that's amazing how the stifling of her relationship manifested in a physical form with her losing her voice. And I've got to say that some people that could happen to, and they just think that was it.
Yeah.
And they maybe go and do another career or something, but to have that focus and understanding and the self-worth.
Yeah. She was resilient. That's the thing. Not everyone stands up again.
No.
And that's why I said when we were talking, she dusted off and she got up again.
Yeah.
She didn't give up that dream. And I'm sure all our listeners out there can think of something that they've dreamt about they want to do. And, she just kept going. She's arrived in an amazing country of Australia.
Yeah.
Port Douglas.
And I've met her husband. He is absolutely beautiful and so supportive and talented. The man can play, I can't even tell you how many musical instruments, and they're both really community-based. And so even though she is enormous in the world, in her field, she's just so down to earth. Beautiful.
Yeah, and it all goes back to community. It all goes back to support
and self-love.
100%.
He means too much to me, and you ain't heard the half. His jelly rolls so sweet. How I love his sausage meat. I can't do without my kitchen man. Oh, that boy can open clam. Nobody else will ever touch my hand. I can't do
Thank you for listening to Our Human Experience. You can follow us on social media on Instagram and Facebook.
ourhumanexperience.com.au.
Listen to Our Human Experience, where you can pod binge anytime you like. See you next time.
Bye.
If you have found this episode to cause you some distress, please reach out to a friend or call Lifeline anytime on 131114. 131114. Take care.